Investment is a lot harder right now. If you're feeling like it's harder, it's because it is. If you're doing fewer deals right now, it's probably because you should be. Again, it doesn't mean there's not deals out there. I'm just saying this is the new landscape. And I don't think it's changing anytime soon. I think that thinking with a long-term mindset around investment, knowing that it will in fact appreciate, is great, but I don't want to eat up those appreciation gains by the negative cash flow. And negative cash flow concerns me because as much as I think my businesses and my income is predictable, I'm also in a space where there's literally no predictability. There has not been a time in history when real estate doesn't go up in 10 years. So what's the mentality for us? You got to be thinking in long-term hold, always. I'm all for doing flips. I'm all for people flipping. If that is your job income, or if that is your mindset is this is going to be income that's going to serve me today just like a commission check will. So number one rule, do not buy for appreciation. Expectations that values will go up anytime soon are risky. So number two, be conservative. Rule number two, be conservative in your underwriting assumptions. With respect to rental income, rents may be at a peak as there's less money to spend right now. We talked about that. Rents increase usually 2 to 3% per year, but it's been 1% or flat today. Vacancy in your rentals absolutely kills. If you've never run out the math on a rental property with vacancy, do it. Expenses. Now, this is an interesting one. We talked about income, but expenses are growing faster than rents right now. Electricity and water go up with inflation. Labor and material go up with inflation. Insurance. We just were talking about this a moment ago. 4 to 7% year over year growth. Now, insurance. Property taxes are interesting too, because in a lot of our markets, property taxes are likely lagging value increases. So when you're underwriting, you got to think about the expenses that may come about from property taxes as well. I know everyone's state's different how we handle certain things, but that is definitely a number we've got to look at. Expenses are growing. Rule number three in today's environment, make sure you're cognizant of the strategy you use. Flipping, just call it what it is. I'm not anti, I'm just saying it's really risky in today's environment if something doesn't cash flow. In other words, if prices drop on that flip, do you have a plan B? All right, number 4 of the 6. I believe, and Ben believes right now, be cautious around adjustable rate debt. All I'm trying to say is we can't predict the future. We don't have a crystal ball. I think a lot can happen in the next handful of years, which means in my mind, if you're going to do a deal, it should work at today's rates. Do not buy anything you're not willing and able to hold for 5 to 10 years. We've kind of made that one pretty clear. Are you going to need the cash in the deal? Like, are you going to need it? If so, you may want to consider alternatives, especially if you're retiring. Now, you're probably going to find out that real estate is still the right place for your money. But I'm just saying, if we have to hold for 5 or 10 years and your intention is to retire, hang up the cleats, and you're going to need that cash, you might want to look at other options like equities and things of that nature. Now, you lose out on certain things with respect to real estate, and I bet you're still going to come back to real estate and say it's right for you. But I think if you're not willing and able to hold for 10 years, I may not be 5 to 10 years, I may not be buying something. Rule number 6, we've got to pay closer attention to what's going on in the government, the legislation that governs us as investors. You got to increase your options, meaning that we've got to be underwriting more opportunities, right? You can't select one and it's going to shake out just fine. You got to look at a lot more deals. You got to be patient, play the long game, and stick to the fundamentals. You see the quote up there by Teddy Roosevelt. Avery was very excited that she pulled this. I know she ChatGPT'd the heck out of it, but she still pulled it nonetheless. Optimism is a good characteristic, but if carried to an excess, it becomes foolishness. We have to guard against being too optimistic in business, lest we overlook the risks and realities that must be faced to achieve success.